Hello,
All
Viva
right.
Birdos. Jason Hill here with the VEB podcast, and we've got a very special guest with you today. One of the newest Cardinals in the minor league system, minor league free agent signing. Logan Sawyer is with us with an incredible story. And I want to say a special thank you and also introduce, as you guys all know, Blake Newberry. He's the one who kind of set this up and tracked this down. And so Blake's going to kind of be taking us where we need to go today. So off you go, Blake.
All right. So yeah, as Jason introed here, Logan, you have a pretty unique story and background with signing with the Cardinals. So just tell us a little bit about that so we can get to know you.
Yeah. Background wise, you just want me to start from the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, however far back you want to take it.
It is a ways back. That's
yeah, it's a ways.
Yeah,
So.
I'm not that old, okay? I'm not that old. I know I'll be a possible 30-year-old rookie, but yeah, no, I'm not that old. But anyway, when I was 3 years old, no. But I mean, that's where it started, honestly. Like for my love for the game was I was 3 years old. I got the opportunity to play my brother's 5-year-old team, and I got a base hit. And when I got to first base, I pushed the kid over, and I told him, I said move over. But I had like a little speech impediment, so I said move over. But I think that's where that competitive spirit kind of started. So growing up, played all kinds of different sports, things like that. And then once I was about 12, 13, 14, around that area, I just kind of really wanted to focus in on just baseball. So when I started doing that, fell in love with obviously the pitching side of it. And once I got into high school, I just kind of saw that there was a little bit of a dream there to go to the next level as a pitcher. Hitting really, it was fun, but I could do without it, I guess I was hit one too many times, but that kind of backfired because I've been hit just as much pitching. So yeah, I mean, I just kind of went to high school, played two-way player, played infield, outfield, pretty much everywhere. And then in college, obviously was a pitcher only. Went to Lincoln Memorial University for 3 years, and then I got drafted as a junior. Went to the Colorado Rockies in the 29th round. And when I went to the Rockies, I was pretty much your 88, 92 guy, sinker, slider, changeup kind of thing. And then in the 2016 season ended, I went back to school to finish my degree. And when I was there, I got a phone call, telling me I was released. So after that happened, didn't really know where to go. Didn't know anything about indie ball. Didn't have an agent of any sort. So I was just kind of stuck and didn't know what to do. And Eric Cressy down at Cressy Sports Performance, he actually texted me and just was kind of doing a check-in. And he was like, haven't got a program request from you. Just checking in, see how things are going. And I told him what had happened. And I was kind of joking when I said it, asking him if he wanted an extra strength coach down there because I loved it so much. And he goes, is that something you would want to do? I said, yeah, of course. My major was kinesiology. I love all that background of, just how the body works, especially in athletics. So I went down there and did the internship. It's very, very detailed in what you have to learn. I mean, the database is insane how much you really have to grasp. So when I went down there, I was fully invested in that, but he kind of kept me on the path to keep that fire lit for baseball. He said, I got scouts coming in January. We do bullpens, kind of a free agent day every Friday kind of thing. And so I said, can I throw in it? He said, of course. That's why I'm telling you that. And that opportunity came. I showed some improvement, and then I was throwing a bullpen, and it was towards the end of the one of the last ones before the guys reported for spring training. So it's kind of my last shot to stand out. And I thought I was done with my bullpen, and they go, well, we like your slider. We want to see it one more time. And I said, okay. I threw one more slider, and I got that nice little scar now. So I felt it pop. Ended up being Tommy John. So I rehabbed all of 2018. And then in 2019, I got the opportunity to go to Lancaster and play for the Barnstormers in the Atlantic League. And went there. And when I signed with Ross Peoples, who's the manager there, he kind of told me from the get-go, we're not going to release you, anything like that. We just want you to get back to where you were. Just use this year as kind of another rehab year. And he told me, he said, don't worry about your numbers, just stay healthy. And I've said this before, and it's kind of joking. If you look at my numbers, it looked like I really didn't care about them. So I was just trying to get back, but I was never on the DL, never, said I was down a day, things like that. So stayed healthy and, I got my goal. I finished the whole season. I think I got back up to like 95 or something like that. I think I topped out at, but mostly was throwing a little bit harder. I was more so around like 91, 93. And then after that season ended, I ended up going to play in Australia down to Melbourne and played there. They put me as a starter, which is kind of what I wanted to do because that was always what I had done previously. When I went down there to do that, the starts didn't go too well, so they moved me to the bullpen. Well, they moved me to the bullpen, and things kind of started working out a little bit. I started to kind of fall in love with that whole routine. And then after that season ended, I came back and that little disease hit. So the world was like, we're going to shut down. And of course, I was crushed. But they said, we're going to try to keep baseball going. And I got an invite to go to the Chicago Dogs for spring training. And when I was there, I thought I was, doing fine, but this ended up being a blessing in disguise. And I'll say this up front. I know we get censored a lot as Christians, but I want to say this is 100% a God thing, 100% a God thing. So I was there and, like I said, I thought I was doing well. The velo was there. You could say they're just spring training games, but it's a tryout. So didn't give up a run. I think I walked one guy, gave up a hit or two, and then I had some strikeouts. So I knew I had improved a little bit. And I got called to the office the very last day of spring training and, got cut. So just the way it is. And I had about an 8-hour drive home after that. And I kind of told myself, okay, you get this whole 8 hours to throw a pity party, whatever you want to do just to get it out of your system. Because I'm not going to show up at the house and be Eeyore walking around saying, woe is me. Well, that lasted about 2 hours into the drive. And I was already sick of the whole pity party thing. And when I was in the car driving, I said, I was praying, I said, God, I had my eyes open, of course, but I was saying, God, if you want me to play baseball and it's your will for that, then just give me that feeling of I have to do baseball. Like it's something I have to do. It's in my blood. But if not, take it away from me. So the next day I woke up and I was absolutely on fire for baseball. I mean, more so than ever. So I knew that was a good sign. And there was nowhere for me to go play, which was unfortunate. And so I just decided to train, and I was trying to look at every single avenue I could of what really went into the science of making somebody throw harder, because you were always kind of taught growing up that some of the guys are just gifted that way and you need to worry about more control and movement and things like that. And that's not the case anymore. The science has proven you can teach yourself to throw harder to a certain extent, of course. And so when I was doing that, I was trying to look at all the different tools that people have used in the past. And I stumbled across the core velocity belt, which obviously helped clean up the mechanical part of it. And then another tool I used was the Clean Fuego. Like you said before, it kind of looks like the hockey puck. And what that kind of did was the core velocity belt just really helped me. And I'm 6'4". I was 6'5", and then I flew to Australia and I got down there and they're like, you're 6'4". I said, really? I said, I just got a physical before I came here. I guess it was something with the flight, but yeah. So I'm 6'4", and you have to use your lower half. You have to. And that core velocity belt is everything. I use it pretty much every single day, just doing a couple drills here and there just to get a feel for stuff. But when I first learned it, I took my laptop to the facility I worked at, BC Athletics in Knoxville, early in the morning so I could have the whole place to myself. And I just kind of studied every single little thing that went into it and wanted to feel the improvement myself. And so it took a long time. It was very, very tedious, but you have to start somewhere. So I kind of stuck with that. And that's what I will say to a lot of guys that are trying to find a way to improve themselves, especially in a sport like baseball and in any position, hitter or pitcher. It takes time. And mental toughness to me is not Navy SEAL training, going out there running like crazy, making yourself throw up from your workouts, things like that. Mental toughness to me is doing those tedious detail exercises, not until you get it right, doing it until you can't get it wrong. Like, I think there's a difference there. So learned that. And then we started throwing a little bit and I was like, man, this feels like butter. Like it felt like something I had never felt before. And, we kind of got more into the long toss stuff. And as I said before, Eric Cressy wrote my, my workouts for me and my throwing program. So it all just started to click for me. And whenever we started long tossing, the ball just felt like it was just shooting out of my hand with less effort. And then, of course, once we got off the mound, my pitching guy in Knoxville, his name's Mike Spears, great, terrific dude, super knowledgeable. He told me, he said, have you signed anywhere yet? And I said, no, not yet. So, well, they're not just going to walk in here and sign you. You have to put a video together and send it out. That's just the way the world is. And this is back in 2021. So I put a video together, and when we're doing it, we're going to do 15 pitches, take a break, and then throw 15 more. So after the first 15, again, it's inside on turf mound. Nobody's around. We have the Rapsodo and TrackMan hooked up, and he goes, "You want to know how hard you're throwing?" And I said, you know, I don't know, maybe 90, 93, like that. I would be happy with that. He goes, "You're sitting 95." And I was like, my jaw dropped. I was like, "Are you serious?" And I was like, this stuff really works. So, yeah, we kind of just took that and ran with it. And I put the video together. He was taking videos of me. So I kind of had the Rapsodo, TrackMan, whatever on the video as well. So it was easier to send out to guys. And, yeah, I sent it out to everybody I knew. And then Evansville called me pretty much right away. Talked to Andy McCauley. I'll say this up front. Evansville, I can't say enough good things about that whole organization, from the front office down. I mean, just they run it the right way, and Andy's such a great dude. So within, 2 minutes of talking to him, I wanted to play for him. And he said, "What role are you looking for?" And I told him, I said, "Honestly, what are your needs?" And he said, "Well, we just lost our closer, so we kind of need a guy to step in that role." And in my head, I was thinking, I wanted to be a starter again, but this could be a good opportunity for me. Maybe a change is what I need. And I said, "Okay." I said, I'll take you up on that. And so he said, "Okay." He said, "I want you to be our closer from what I see, but you're going to have to earn it." And I love that he said that. So, it's kind of like what my parents tell me. They say, if you want Logan to get something done, tell him you can't do it. So when he told me I had to earn it, I was like, "Okay, I'll come. Okay, Chief, I'll come up there and earn it." So I did. I had that chip on my shoulder, and I had something to prove. And I think it's that whole mindset too. I had something to prove, but nothing to lose. Because I mean, I've already been cut and released, and it's like, you're not going to hurt my feelings. And you can't do that anyway. I'm a Tennessee Vols fan, so I have had my heart broken plenty of times in the past. And had a good year in 21, and then they signed me back. I didn't get picked up, so they signed me back, and he said, "Okay." He goes, "I want you to be the closer, but you're going to have to earn it." I said, "Fair enough." So went back for the 2022 season, and I did the same thing I did the previous offseason, except I kind of upped the ante a little bit in regards to just mastering those little things I learned towards the end at the beginning. So those little mechanical things, I kind of just kept that going, that kind of snowball effect. And I'll say this too, a lot of guys want to go in there and lift heavy. I lift moderately heavy, but I try to lift fast with certain exercises to get that explosiveness. But that's a story for another day. That's a very in-depth conversation of the strength side of it. But doing all of that, I came back into camp and felt like $1,000,000. And I told my pitching coach at the time, I said, he asked me what my goal was. I said, "Well, obviously to get picked up, but I have goals that if I obtain those, getting picked up should take care of itself." So it's pretty much just, get a good strikeout to walk ratio. Don't blow a save, things like that. And I was checking all those goals and nothing was happening yet, but it's just the way it is. And so I finally told him, after we had that conversation before the season, I said, "I want to look like a big leaguer in the Frontier League. Like, I want to look like I don't belong there." And after the season, he asked me, he goes, "Do you remember that conversation we had?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And he goes, you got pretty dang near close to doing what you said you were going to do." And I said, "Yeah." I said, I can't do anything about getting picked up. That's pretty much out of my control. That's 30 different teams trying to do 30 different things, trying to find different needs. And so we left the off season. I was kind of like, man, this is, kind of sucks. But at the same time, like, I had a good year. I could always look back on that. And yeah, when I came back home, we got to about, I guess it was Halloween, and my wife, I'll give her all the credit for this. She said, "Have you gotten any calls?" And I said, "I've gotten a few, just kind of like keeping up with me." And that happened during the season. And she goes, "But no offers?" I said, "No, not yet." She goes, "Why don't you go tag that pitching ninja guy on Twitter?" I said, "I don't have a video together or anything." She goes, "Well, do it." And so it's like I tell her, she gave me a test of my own medicine whenever she works night shift. She's a nurse. She's a hero. She's a saint. I could talk about her all day long. I love her to death. But I always tell her, I give her the number one or number two. Number one is tough love. It's just pretty much like, suck it up. Like, you got this. Or two is, the love of like, it's going to be okay, baby. Like, it's going to be fine. And she gave me the one. And she goes, nobody has time. You have to make time. And so I was like, okay. So I put the video together, and also had help from Matt, who's the radio guy at Evansville, put together some videos. And so I put that on Twitter and then posted it. And I work HVAC in the off season, helping out my wife's grandfather's business, Eric West America, shout out. And so, so I posted on Twitter, and then I got to a job, and I didn't have my phone on me. I left it in the truck. And so I posted it, and then I came back, and I got a notification on my Fitbit saying my phone battery was going low. And I was like, why is it going low? Like, it's early in the morning. Like, there's no reason it should be going low. Well, I forgot to turn off my like Twitter notifications. And so Rob had, because you know how selfish Rob is, he never tries to help anybody out. Well, he retweeted it and kind of boosted me up a little bit. And so I got flooded with like 1,500 Twitter notifications. I was like, oh my gosh. And sure enough, I checked my email, had some emails from teams, had some missed phone calls, things like that. And I was like, that was within just a few hours. And I was blown away from the reception I got. And it's kind of funny because from the get-go, people I've done podcast interviews for lately, they all say the same thing, like Cardinals Nation on Twitter is wild. And I remember from the get-go, I saw a ton of Cardinals people tweeting already. Some good, some bad, but that's the way it is out there. But it's kind of funny how social media is used now. But I started getting offers and stuff, and most teams were genuinely interested, but some of them were pretty much like, you can come to a workout. If you stand out, we'll give you a minor league invite kind of thing, which is fine. It's a great thing to have. But I was wanting an offer to kind of get an invite somewhere. And so I would have done it, but going out there and throwing is on your dime. And when I kept talking to teams, I was going to sign with a couple. I got some offers, and I was kind of going through them, like, should I take this one or that one? Like, what are the pros and cons? Trying to reach out to people that may be in that organization or have been in the past. And I had never heard from the Cardinals, never heard from them. And then one Thursday morning, about 10 o'clock, I get an email from John Vutch, and he reached out and told me to call him. So I called him pretty much right away. And granted, we're out on a call, so we don't do residential, we do commercial. So we're at this big warehouse, and I call him. He goes, "What's that noise?" I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm up on a roof right now." So I was out there working, but I had to call him because I just had a gut feeling. And we talked, and from the get-go, he didn't ask anything about baseball. It was all about who I was, what I was about, what my interests are, what my plans are after baseball, my family situation, all that kind of stuff, which really stood out to me because it made me think, like, these guys really care about signing a quality person. And so I talked to him probably about 30 minutes. He told me that Tim, the pitching coordinator, was going to call me in a little bit. I said, great. So he called me a little after a while. And then when he called, we talked for probably an hour. And then he said he liked what he heard. And then I talked to John again after that for just a few minutes. And he told me, he said, we like what we see. If you're bought into, I guess everybody knows in Cardinal Nation, the Cardinal way. He goes, I think this would be a really good fit for you. He said, I know you have other offers, but he goes, we're going to extend one out to you, but I have to run it by the front office and make sure they get that squared away. They probably want to check you out, all that kind of stuff. And I said, that's completely fair. I said, I'm definitely interested. So I'll have my phone on me. Just call me. If it goes to voicemail, I apologize. It's not personal. It's just, I'm working right now. And he said, well, it won't be today. It'll probably be, next week or after Thanksgiving. And so I said, oh, okay, it's fine. And coincidentally, like right after I hung up, I had two other teams call me, and it was just a weirder feeling. I was kind of like, I felt like I was I'm not a cheater. I've never cheated on a female or anything like that, but that's what I felt like. I felt gross. I was like, am I cheating a little bit? And he called me back like 15 minutes later, and he goes, I talked to the front office. He said they already knew who you were. They like what they hear. They like what they see. And he gave me the offer, and he said, this is what we'd like to do. And kind of gave me the whole rundown of how everything is. And he goes, you don't have to answer right away, but don't take too long. But at the same time, if something else comes along, we totally understand. And I said, okay. I said, let me call my wife and let me pray about it, and I'll get back to you. He goes, okay. He goes, take your time, later this evening or tomorrow. I said, okay. I said, my wife's asleep right now. She works night shift. So it may be tomorrow. He said, that's fine. So I called him back 10 minutes later. And I told him, I said, hey, I'm ready. And he goes, we good? I said, we're good. And I mean, when I stepped away to pray, and I said, God, if this is the right thing to do, just give me a sign. There I go into the dark. Hang on just a second. There we go. Maybe that was a sign. Lightning didn't strike, so we're good.
Yeah.
Figured lightning might strike because I grew up watching the Reds. But anyway, Cardinals Nation all day now. But I prayed, and I was like, God, if this is the right thing to do, like give me a feeling, not a sign, but give me a feeling. And I mean, it was unanimous from everything. And I even tried to trick myself to say, hey, this isn't the right thing to do. You shouldn't play baseball. You shouldn't do this or that. My brain wouldn't even go there. So it was definitely the right move, and it was a very, very easy decision, and I could not be happier about it. So I'm glad you guys had me on here for these 30 minutes. I just talked and ruined your whole show, but thank you.
Oh, you're good, man. Congrats. That's awesome. It's a really cool.
Thank you.
I do want to, did you get an invite to spring training from the Cardinals?
So not a big league invite.
Yeah.
But I got an invite. So I signed the contract. So I am in the Cardinals organization.
Yeah.
So I mean, if I go up there and crap the bed, I won't make it past spring training, but I'm definitely not going to do that. I mean, I'm doing everything I can to improve myself every day. I mean, I'm pretty much getting up 4:30 in the morning to go work out, go throw, and then I'm off to work. And, when I come back home, I'm usually doing mobility or something, just trying to always better myself. But yeah, they gave me an invite to spring training, not big league camp, but spring training nonetheless. And they invited me to step camp. So mini camp, I guess you would say. Yeah. And they asked me, we kind of want you here a little bit earlier than that if you can. So I guess that's a good sign as well, which I'm thrilled about. And I mean, I hope I can say all that. I don't know. I mean, if I get in trouble, whoops.
Don't worry, none of the front office listens to this, so it won't matter.
Well, I have nothing bad to say about them, so I mean, I don't have to worry about it. But no, I mean, they gave me the invite to step camp or whatever, so I'm kind of taking that and running with it.
Yeah,
and super excited. Couldn't be happier. I mean, like I said, my wife is the reason this happened, and she will deny it because she's an absolute saint. But she's pretty much the reason that this ball kind of got rolling. But I will say too, just to kind of backtrack, it's not from a lack of my pitching coach and manager with Evansville not doing anything. They're far different than a lot of independent ball teams. A lot of independent ball teams, what people don't understand is they can be very sketchy in regards to if you're doing really well, they don't want to release you because they want to keep you because they're winning. But a good quality person will want to get you out of there because that I think that looks better. Being like, hey, like we sent guys out, like they want more guys to come in. But it's not a lack from them. They're great, have good relationships with the teams. But yeah, so I mean, they obviously helped out. They always kept me in the loop with that stuff. But yeah, my wife is definitely the one that got that whole social media ball rolling. But I don't know how much longer I'm gonna stay on social media, but who knows?
Yeah. So what's your repertoire? What do you throw? What are you going to go to camp throwing?
Yeah, so I mean, it used to be, like I said, sinker, slider, changeup, but now it's four seam. I was trying to ride that through the zone. And then I have my splitter, and then I have a split change. Because my splitter, a lot of guys say it's not really a splitter, it's like a fork ball because it'll come out spinning like a four seam, and then it just starts to kind of knuckle and drops. So I think in that video you can see one that we got that was pretty good with the movement pattern of like you can see like it kind of comes here, then just kind of bottoms out. So yeah, four seam, splitter, split change, and then a slider.
Okay. Movement profile on each of those?
Four seems pretty true, and that's kind of thanks to Clean Fuego, and that really helped me because I get a lot of guys saying, man, you throw a heavy ball, which I like because I think that goes a longer way than just throwing hard, because you see some guys that get lit up at 98 and some guys that blow doors at 92. And I think that has a lot to do with it, with the way you spin the ball. Spin efficiency, I guess it is. And if you start asking questions about that, I'm lost. I don't know anything about the metrics. I didn't even look at my own stats until like the All-Star break. Like I didn't know the 0 ERA thing until guys started telling me about it. So I don't look at stats. I don't look at anything like that. But yeah, the movement pattern on that would be four seam ride's pretty true. Splitter, you can flip a coin sometimes because I'll tuck my thumb to make it drop, away from a righty, or I'll hold it on the side to get it to go away from a lefty, straight underneath for more of a tumble drop. But sometimes it has a mind of its own, and that's what I tell catchers. That's just how it is. I mean, you see guys that throw cutters and it sinks. Like it's just how it is sometimes. But
Yeah.
I got a pretty good idea of what it's going to do and where it's going to go. And then the split change is pretty much, it's kind of like a parachute change where it's not going to have that like swooping horizontal action. It just kind of like fastball and then kind of like pauses and then like kind of fades at the last second. So I liked getting that motion off of that versus a traditional, change up grip versus just going there with it. And going there with it, I just throw it like a fastball and it just really has that kind of like here and then just kind of pause and fade. But having to throw it, you have to throw it as hard as you can, because if you don't, it'll fade too soon. So that's why I like to get it where it's gonna, instead of home plate here and it fades out here, it's more of like here, and then they start to swing and they look over it like they don't know what it was. And that's what I want. I want all my pitches to tunnel and look the same. Slider, we were tinkering around with that a little bit throughout the year, because some days it was a really good, almost like drop slider where it had a lot of depth to it. And then some days it would be more like a cutter. So we kind of tinkered the idea with going to a cutter, and then we kind of just day to day, honestly. But that's what I'm excited about, is going to spring training, getting around those coaches, players, things like that, because Cardinals obviously have a great history of player development and obviously great pitchers. So I'm very excited, very coachable, vulnerable to change. So they see something that could possibly help me. It would be stupid of me to be like, no, I'm good. Like, no, I'm fine. No, that's dumb. So, no, I'm really excited to hear what they say from seeing me.
Yeah, that's great. One thing I'm interested in is, how long have you been throwing the splitter? Is that something you've added recently?
So they taught me it in Australia because he bluntly told me my stuff sucked, and he said nothing moved, and I blamed it on being down under where everything works backwards. So he was like, he's telling me, he's like, mate, your slider isn't really getting there, so let's try the splitter. Yeah, let's try the splitter. And I said, okay. And so he's like, all you're gonna do, mate, is you're gonna get a softball and you're gonna jam it in there and you're gonna break those tendons. And I was like, okay. And so I jammed it in there, fell asleep in the recliner at the house, and I woke up, my hand was purple and numb. And I thought I lost my hand. And then I went to go throw the next day, and it felt so good and so natural, but it didn't look it, because about 5 of those splitters went to the parking lot. Because I mean, if you've never thrown a splitter before, it is so foreign. And to finally hone it in, I mean, that was in the November of 2019. And I finally kind of, don't want to say perfected it, but got it to where it is now last year, and then improved on it to this year. But yeah, so I learned it in 2019, but really got into it in 21. But yeah, I honestly think that's what kind of helped change my career from going to being a ground ball guy to being more of a strikeout guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, the splitter's a pitch you don't really see that often nowadays. So I was wondering, do you think you don't see it often because it's hard to throw, or you think, is that what it is?
It could be. It could also be the whole cookie cutter system with some teams. I mean, I do know, I can say that and not worry about getting in trouble. I do know there are teams that do the cookie cutter system of, you have to throw this pitch with us, or at least try it, or you have to do this. So I think a lot of people steered away from it because people got into the whole ideology of that it causes, injuries and arm pain and stuff like that. And I mean, isn't that with any pitch though? I mean, it's like the most unnatural explosive movement to do. I mean, just look at a freeze frame of a guy mid pitch. So if you do it safely, I mean, I think it's a fine pitch to throw. Obviously, you have to be mature enough to do it. You can't just throw an 8-year-old, be like, hey, let's break up those tendons that you're growing right now. But that's the thing with me is like I don't really have big hands. I have like bear paws where they're fat, but they're not super, super long, but they're fat. So I knew I could kind of like get it there if I just kind of spread them out and spread them out, spread them out. But yeah, it just kind of works with my hand because my buddy has super long fingers and he can't throw it because it's just too much to get back there. It's almost like people that say Shaq sucks at free throws, right? Well, if you think about it, with Shaq's hands and the size of the ball, it's like you trying to shoot a tennis ball into the goal. You know what I mean? So like it's harder to do. So I guess it just kind of matches up with my hand the right way. But yeah, no, I love throwing that pitch.
You mentioned you're not a stats guy, but I want to throw a couple stats out just for our audience.
Just call my dad. He's got every single breakdown you can imagine. He's a stat whore.
Yeah. You can find Logan stats on Baseball Reference, including all of his independent league stuff, Frontier League stuff.
Just don't go prior to 2021.
I won't. No, I'm
kidding. Go ahead. It makes for a better story, though. That's what my dad told me.
Yeah. So 2022 Evansville, 0 walks. No, 3 walks.
Yeah.
In 30 innings, which is impressive. 0 home runs. That's the next column over. It's hard to see the top of your the top line and the bottom at the same time. There's a lot in there.
Yeah, and a lot of big numbers.
Seasons, yeah. But an 11.7 K per 9, which is very impressive. And the part that I love, as I wouldn't say an old school, but kind of a fan of command from pitchers, a 13.0 K to walk ratio, which is absurd, man. That's absurd. Even on an independent league, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean it's no accident that when I cleaned up my mechanics with the core velocity belt and the clean fuego and Cressy's programming and work with Mike Spears, which he's not a household name. People don't really know about him, but I mean, I think today he was talking to Blake Trinan. I believe he's really good boys with Alex Vesia. The guy that if those kind of guys talk to a guy like that, like you're gonna want to pick his brain. So yeah, putting all those together, like I said, it really helped me to feel comfortable in understanding, feeling every single cue that I have, which isn't a whole lot, but it's, I guess, the way my ADHD brain is going right now is trying to say that everything together makes sense because it was just the perfect formula for me. May not be the perfect formula for somebody else. You got to find what works for you. It worked for me because it helped me feel my lower half. It helped me stay on top of the baseball. Cressy's workouts helped me get a lot better mobility, core, overall strength, and just a kind of an athletic feel for stuff. So I knew I was joking around about this with somebody the other day because they told me I moved slow, which is kind of ironic because if I get going, I can pick up some speed a little bit along the way. But that's the part I was going to say is like his workouts aren't just boring mobility strength. It's like, agilities, conditioning, and learning how to move your body correctly. You don't want to look like a lost deer out there. So, yeah, I think mixing those together helped me understand, okay, I missed up an arm side. What do I need to do now? In reference to like catch, player, or bullpen. In the game, I just look at the mitt. I don't even try to think about any of that, but it helps you to understand what to correct and how to maintain that versus just doing it as a flash in the pan of like, oh, I threw a bad pitch. Oh, there's a good pitch, and move on. It's like, no, it's like, let's do that 3 times in a row. You know what I mean? Once could be a fluke. Twice, okay, whatever. You might have got lucky right there again. But if you do it 3 times in a row, it's kind of hard to ignore that. So, yeah, I think that's where the control came from. Because you can have control, but when you start getting into the realm of command, that's where I started to get into and just take a lot of pride in of like, I'm coming after you. I'm going to challenge you. I'm not throwing it right down the middle, but, I'm not going to miss my spot by much if I do. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else to say when it comes to that kind of stuff, but kind of mixing all of those tools and things like that really gave me an appreciation for just playing catch under control and just feeling it through every single aspect of baseball, throwing to a base, throwing a pitch out, things like that. Like, you can't freeze up. It's got to come kind of natural, but that comes through preparation.
Yeah, so it's cool. You've mentioned the clean fuego a couple times. Can you kind of just tell us what that is and what the point of that is and what you're trying to do with that?
Yeah, so pretty much it looks like a hockey puck. So it's essentially, if you had a baseball and you just shaved off the sides and left the middle, it does look like a hockey puck. So the point of it is to manipulate your hand to stay on top by giving you instant feedback. So basically, if I have this coaster here, if you're just listening, it's just a regular coffee coaster. If I'm holding it like this and I'm coming through the ball, I should have somewhat of a true spin of like a 12 to maybe 1 o'clock at the most. Because if you get on the side of the ball even more, sorry, can you still hear me? If you get on the side of the ball even more, that ball is going to come off this way, and the spin is going to be a little bit more white and not a blur, or white and red. You're going to be able to see the seams. It's not going to come out as true. Velocity may be the same, but the spin's going to be down. So I've seen guys throw 95, but they have like a 60% efficiency. And I've seen guys throw like 90 and have like a 95% efficiency, and the 90 looks harder. So basically what that tool is doing is helping you get that instant feedback of where your hand is when you release the ball. Because if you throw it right, it'll go right to where you want it, obviously. But if you don't, if I was to throw it at the catcher, this is no joke because I've done it myself. If you get on the side of the ball, it's going to go to the first base dugout, and that's not even a lie. I mean, it'll take off that quick. So to get that feel, it takes practice. I mean, with me, I know there's that whole company, Oats Specialist, I think it is, Tap Sports or something like that. Well, they have that like pitching thing you can throw into, like it's a little like black mat. Well, I took it off the frame and I put carabiners on it upside down, and I would clip it on a fence. And so that's how I call it, that's my throwing partner, Matt. So I love it because he never complains, rain or shine. But yeah, my throwing partner, Matt, will give me instant feedback. So learning how to throw that consistently to Matt was kind of what got me started, because at first I was like, why is it doing that? Like, I feel like I'm throwing it perfectly fine. Sure enough, I wasn't even close. So I think that also has something to do with the command.
Gotcha. Wow. Yeah, that's a super cool tool. But while we're on your fastball, I think as I watched that highlight video you tweeted out, I see your fastball touched 100 now. Is that accurate?
That's what it said. I mean, I don't look at the numbers, but I mean, I know for sure it was consistently 95, 98, consistently. But yeah, you can ask everybody in the past. I have not once ever gone up to the guy's radar and saying how hard was I throwing. But I mean, it says it more than once. So I knew I was onto something. And I remember my buddy told me, he goes, I'm not telling you what you hit tonight. And I was like, why? He was like, I'm not telling you what you hit. And I was like, kind of looked at him, and he just kind of like nodded his head like that. And I said, oh, well, all right. I said, did I? And he went like, I was like, okay. So I'm guessing that's what he meant. But yeah, no, I mean, it's pretty crazy. And I remember the pitches that were clocked at 100 for sure felt a little different. So I'm glad he nodded and kind of gave me that confirmation, at least, because you can feel it in it's like what Bob Gibson said. Like, when you start throwing harder, your whole body feels it. Not in a bad way. It's just kind of like, whew, like that's a new muscle. But yeah, I know if I'm doing my job right, my butt gets sore and my lat in the back of my shoulder, because I'm just getting everything through it, which is good. You always want to be sore on the backside. But yeah, no, consistently though, probably 95, 98. But I mean, yeah, I can get it up there. I'm not like my other Knoxville native, Ben Joyce, who's an absolute freak, throwing 105. That guy's ridiculous. He could sit right here and have his right elbow be behind his head right now, like on the other side of the room. Guy's ridiculous. But yeah, no, I mean, getting it up there. It's been a long road.
Wow. So 95, multiple breaking pitches at multiple planes, all from the same arm slot, tunneling everything, doesn't allow walks. I don't know, man. We might see you in St. Louis sooner rather than
I
later.
hope so. I hope so. I mean, I know people say too, like, oh, it's easy to get, Frontier League independent ball guys out. Like, I've seen guys be like, wait till he gets to spring training. I'm like, well, I mean, if that happens, then okay, like, then I can go home and swallow it and be like, you know what? I did everything I could to get to where I am and more. And if I'm not good enough, then that's okay. Like, that's okay. Like, I'll be 30. I've had a good, I mean, I'm not going to call it quits. I mean, they're going to have to rip this jersey off of me because my wife, I jokingly say that's the reason I married her, was she said I could play baseball till I'm 100 and she doesn't care. She'll always support me. But I mean, yeah, I mean, even when the Cardinals signed me, they go, we know you throw like 95, 96, but we don't care about really how hard you can throw. And in the back of my head, I was like, oh, so that's, if I come in to spring training and I'm throwing like, touching 98 or 100, I was like, that's really going to look good. But because they didn't seem like they knew how hard I could throw. So, yeah, I mean, throwing right now feels good. So hopefully, yeah, coming to camp ready and I could see you on St. Louis. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Blake, you got anything else?
No, that's all I got for him.
Yeah. Well, hey, Logan, I'm so glad you were able to come on and just share a little bit about your story and just it's a privilege to be able to introduce you to Cardinals fans. I know in our circles on Viva Birdos, we follow the minors almost as much as we do the majors, and there'll be a lot of people out there really interested. And we'll keep an eye on you. And if you don't mind, we'd love to have you back in, maybe around spring training, maybe a little after that. Once you get settled and kind of keep this story going a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll keep training so I can, get some verification of a couple 100-mile-an-hour fastballs.
Yeah.
That way I can actually go ask, like, hey, did I throw it? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But no, I just get outs and everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, we wish you the best of luck, and we will be following and rooting you on and praying for you, and it should be a great thing to follow. So
thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah. For the rest of you out there in Viva Birdos world, next week is the winter meetings, and some combination of us, depending on schedules, are going to sit down with Jeff Jones of the Belleville News Democrat. Maybe from the winter meetings, we're trying to work that out. We think we can. Otherwise, we'll do it right afterwards and get all the reports on the signings or the non-signings that happen next week at the big annual swap meet. So it should be a lot of fun. But for Logan and for Blake, we're so glad you joined us, and have a very happy day, Viva Birdos. We'll see you on the other side.